Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to be talking about lesson 3 in chapter 5. That's going to use the idea behind integers is going to get added into our compare and order integers. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little diagram, and I'm going to draw it somewhat large because I've got to include some kind of important numbers. So I'm going to kind of do like a nesting cup. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. They have these nesting dolls where you open up a big doll and there's a littler doll in it, and you open up that smaller doll and there's an even smaller doll in it, and so on and so forth. I forget its name. It's Russian in orientation. Maybe one of you can remind me what it's called. So we're going to start with natural numbers is going to go in the center. Okay, I'm going to draw a circle. And surrounding that would be what's called whole numbers. So in the way that I'm drawing this diagram is if there's a circle inside of another circle, that means everything in the inner circle is part of the outer circle. Okay, so we build out, and we've been dealing with whole numbers and natural numbers since you were a little kid and your parents were teaching you your beginning numbers before you ever went to school. So now here's where integers come into play. And if you remember, the definition is whole numbers and their opposites, so it makes sense that whole numbers are included in the integer circle as well as natural numbers. And then we get to the word that did show up on our test, rational numbers. And rational numbers is what all these numbers are all part of. Okay, so I'm going to give some examples of each of these. And remember, rational numbers are any number that can be written as a ratio. So I'm going to write that over here, rational numbers. Or a number written as a ratio, and that's fraction. And now I'm going to add its actual definition, a little bit better than the one before, of two integers. So now it allows us to add positive or negative numbers. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to natural numbers. So these are the numbers that you learn to count with. So you naturally begin at 1. Nobody starts at 0. Everybody starts at 1. So if you're in PE and they tell you the number off, you don't go 0, 1, 2, 3, and you don't say 1/2, 1, 1.5. No. Okay, so it's these kinds of numbers. Now the only difference between natural numbers and whole numbers is one little number, but he causes a big stink. That would be 0. Okay, again, I don't start counting at 0. All right, so now integers include not only the natural numbers that are whole numbers, no fraction or decimal parts, and 0. The integers, what's unique to them are the signs. So like I can have -1, -357, I could have -2, I could have -15. So anything in that outer integer circle also includes all the whole numbers and all the natural numbers. Okay? All right, so what are rational numbers? Well, anything that can get written as a ratio or fraction. So you think about what we just covered in the last chapter. That's going to include positive and negative versions of fractions. Okay, and it could also include mixed numbers, either written as, here, I forgot my decimal point, I got so excited to write that, either written as with a decimal, or written as let's see, 1.5. But I can convert it to a rational number by changing this to an improper fraction, right? Let's see. And then the one we're also going to be talking about in this chapter is, what if you have a repeating decimal? That's going to be an exciting new thing. And if you think about it, the percents we just talked about are also rational numbers because I can compare them to 100, right? So we could say 2% could also be one. Okay, so we have positive numbers, we have negative numbers, we have fractions, decimals, percent. Okay? All right, so I'm going to write here on the bottom about how do we compare. So we're going to compare, and we're going to use an inequality symbol or an equal sign. So that's how I can compare. Okay, so we could have something that's less than. We could have something that's greater than. Oops, I forgot the than part. Greater than, thank you very much. And we could have something that's equal to. Okay, so those are the kinds of symbols we're going to use. Now, some people may like this hint. If you're more visual, you might want to use a number line to help with ordering integers. So right now we're going to just kind of look at those three inner circles, but we have a lesson just a couple away that then talks about rational numbers, comparing and ordering them. And that's kind of like what we did before, but now we're going to throw in the negatives as well. Okay, now here's the one thing that goes back to the lesson that we did on Friday, the notes we took that we're practicing in class, and that's absolute value. So this is a double thing you have to really watch out for. So you must take the absolute value. That's the word we use. Of numbers in order to compare or order. Okay, so when you have an absolute value, you have to take the absolute value. So figure out how far that number is from 0, so your answer is not going to have absolute value symbols in it anymore. Then you can place it. And just like we did before, we always go back to the original numbers. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go to the next screen. We're going to practice. And our directions are going to say, we have a couple different. Fill the circle, open circle, with greater than, less than, or equal to make a true sentence. So this is going to be comparing. So you only have one thing on the left of this open circle and one thing on the right. And we're using the word sentence for math for when you have a complete this is less than that. That's a sentence in math, okay? So, first problem. And we're going to have some that are so simple to do, you hardly even need to think about it. Okay, automatically you should already know the answer. Think about a number line. When we're looking for the bigger number, it's always going to be the guy farthest to the right, okay, because positive numbers are it. So when it's a positive versus a negative, guess who's going to be the bigger guy? Positive. So this is going to be greater than, okay? Super cinchy when it's a positive and a negative. Okay, doesn't matter what side he shows up on. All right, so we have a negative versus a positive. We still are going to have the positive be the greater one, so open towards the bigger number. Now, you've had enough practice with two positives, so this shouldn't be hard. Who's farther to the right on a number line? So remember, you could graph it if you needed to. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 4 is certainly farther on the number line than 3, so he's going to be the greater. And then here's where it gets tricky, and this is the one where you might need a number line, because the relationship with two negatives seems a little opposite to what it would have been if you're talking about positives. Okay, so somewhere down here we've got our 0. Okay, put my tick marks on here. So here's -8, -6, -4, and -2. So I'm going to plot the 2 points. So here's -7. And here's -8. So the one that we're going to choose is the one that's closest to 0. And the one that's closest to 0 is this guy, the -7. So what's kind of strange is the smaller looking number is actually larger because he's closer to the 0 or farther to the right when you're comparing. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little note here. These were all about comparing, so we're just going to say compare. Okay, next set of directions. We're going to have us put them in order. So order the set of numbers. From least to greatest. Okay, and that's it. Now, you do have to pay attention because I know in our quiz, I think greatest to least showed up, so you got to watch the words. So we're going to do 2 of these, and we're going to get a whole list of numbers. So the set of numbers, so this is called a brace. So it kind of looks like a forehead, a nose, and a chin. That just means a group of numbers that we're going to look at as belonging to each other for whatever reason. That's one way. You'll use it in different ways when you get into higher math. So let's see. I need to go from -9, -8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6, 4, 2, 0, -2, -4, -6, -8. So this is the reason why I don't put every number in my number lines. Just get too small. So what I'm going to do is color code my numbers, and I'm going to just graph them on here. Okay, let's do, he's going to be blue, and then let's get pink. It's going to be the 0. Okay, so this is telling us the order our numbers should be. least is going to be farthest left. So I'm going to write that word here, left. And this is going to be right. So as far left is your least, and as far right is your greatest. So red went with -9. The kind of aqua blue went with -3. The pink was 0. And the green was 6. And that would be the answer to this problem. It would be the set -9, -3, 0, and 6. Now, another way you can look at this is just group the negatives together. So I'm going to put them down here. So -9 and then -3, and then I'm going to group the positives together, 6 and 0, and I'm going to order them in their partnerships. I know the negatives are always going to come first. -9 is smaller than -3, so I'm going to write them down. And then between 6 and 0, 0 is smaller than 6. So you can kind of split them that way too and do the problem. So we'll do the next one like that. Oh, sorry, there's my kitty. So we have the absolute value of 4. We have 3. We have -11. We have -25. That's the set. So remember what we talked about. In the notes, I said you got to make sure that absolute values, we have to take them. So the absolute value of 4 is, how far is 4 from 0? It's just 4 spaces away. So I'm comparing 4, 3, -11, -25. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and group my negatives first. So let's see, we had -11, -25, and then I'm going to group my positives. And we have a 4 and we have a 3. So the smaller the negative, the closer to 0. So those two need to get swapped around. And then between 4 and 3, 3 is smaller than 4. Okay, I'm almost ready to write my answer. Remember what I need to do is I need to write the answers of the original numbers. Okay, so here comes my final answer. -25, -11, 3, and the absolute value of 4. It's that set that is the solution. So that's it for today, guys. We're going to have a couple of short notes. I agonized you on the other one, so these are going to be shorter. All right, good luck now. We'll talk about it later. Bye-bye now.